Good evening. I'm Natalie. I'm going to be talking to you about a little music theory today. It doesn't really sound so exciting, does it? But it actually can be pretty interesting when you consider the things that it can affect. So, to start off, most of you know that a major scale is happy and a minor scale is sad, right? We don't have to take any advanced music theory classes to know that each one has an opposite emotion attached to it. But what about the whole tone scale? I'm guessing most of you aren't familiar with the term, but I bet every single one of you has heard it before. Take a quick listen. That sounds a little familiar, right? It's the dream sequence. You'd have to be living under a rock to not have heard it in a movie, cartoon, even a commercial. And every single time we hear it, we know exactly what's going on. Somebody's entering a dream, they're having a flashback. But how can this experience be so universal? How can we hear things like a major scale, a minor scale, or even a whole tone scale and know exactly what's going on? Perhaps it's because the same types of music have been drilled into us since childhood. We hear in films sad music paired with sad scenes, and in commercials we hear happy music paired with happy customers. But who was the first to really decide what was happy and sad? We can look back in time pretty far. They've even started to reconstruct ancient Greek music, which is an amazing feat, because as you can see, this notation is nowhere near what we know now. But if we listen to this music speaking from a Western perspective, it sounds weird. We can't really pick out any of the emotions, the melodies, the harmonies that the Greeks would have drawn from this music. So we have to look towards something a little bit more modern. And it's especially around the Romantic era from about 1830 to 1900 where our current associations with music and emotions come from. But we can also look at this from a more scientific perspective. Note intervals, such as C to E, can be described with ratios, and we can find these ratios by dividing the frequencies of the notes and simplifying them. Generally, a simpler ratio will be a nicer sounding interval. For example, take a major third, a C to an E. If we divide the frequency of an E divided by a C, you get a nice simple ratio of 5/4. That's a pretty simple, nice ratio, and this chord should sound pretty nice. It's a pretty nice sounding interval, but if we compare this to a tritone, which is one of the most hated intervals of all time, it's not going to sound nice. This, if you divide the intervals, you get a ratio of 64 to 45, or roughly the square root of 2. That's a pretty gross interval, and it's going to sound absolutely disgusting. We much prefer hearing these simpler ratios because of the way that the sound waves interact. The ratio of 5 waves to 4 waves is going to line up really well. It's going to sound really nice to our ears. But 64 waves to 45 waves, you're going to have a lot of differences in the waves there, and our brains are going to hear that as really dissonant and unappealing. So happy major chords are going to be made up of simpler ratios, and darker dissonant chords are going to be made up of more complicated ratios. But happy music isn't just made up of happy chords. We also have to consider that would get really boring really fast. So composers throw a little dissonance every once in a while in there. It creates a feeling of tension and release. And we get entertainment from this. It's like a story. If all you have are your characters dancing around, prancing, with nothing going wrong in their life, you're not going to be entertained at all. But music is constantly changing. As I said, Greek music sounds completely unfamiliar from us. So science can try to tell us that this is what we should be hearing. We should be happy when we feel this music. We should feel sad when we hear this music. It's going to be really different for anyone. And because the culture of the world is constantly changing, we can access new music in ways that we've never even been able to think of before. Jazz, country, classical, anything that you could ever want is really just a click away. So why aren't we exploring it a little more? Now, I'm just as guilty as anyone in this room of closing off my music tastes. I have one playlist that I pretty much loop on repeat 24/7. But every once in a while, looking for something new can be really fun. You can find something that tugs at a heartstring you weren't even aware of. And even if it's something that your mom, your peers, your best friend isn't listening to, it can be really rewarding. You can find new things out about yourself and your personal taste in music. And the whole point of music is to express things. There's no limit to what you can express with music. So next time you're out there on YouTube, searching through your own playlists on Spotify, try looking for something new. You could be surprised at what you find out about yourself. Thank you.